Hey yo, just a small note for you guys. This is a continuation from the dungeon tier list that I did. This time I will be ranking all of the raids. I have reset the tier list in the tier maker, so all the rankings you saw previously will not appear. We will be starting from VOG and going all the way through. For video structure, same deal, just kind of peaceful music in the background. Me just kind of getting my bearings on audio recording and stuff like that. But I hope you guys enjoy, and this is my opinion on each of the raids, relatively in depth. As noted in the video, I will not be ranking Desert Perpetual. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy, and we will cut to the video. Okay. So, similar to where we left off with the dungeon tier list, we're going to do a raid tier list now. Just my opinion on each of the raid encounters in the game, starting from Destiny 1 all the way up through the final shape. Similar to before, I will not be ranking anything that came after final shape. So I will not be ranking the Desert Perpetual raid, which I have never completed. I left Destiny 2 before I could complete Desert Perpetual. Or at least before I could take interest in it. Anyways, we're going to start with Vault of Glass. Good old vault. Yeah. The first encounter was okay. Raise the Spire. In Destiny 1, it was kind of interesting that you could drive right through the base of the encounter. Just exploring through Venus. In Destiny 2, on contest mode of this dungeon, this encounter was actually really funny in a tragic way because it showed us all just that this was not going to be a pushover like it was in Destiny 1. I remember my teammates getting one shot by the turret guys on contest mode. The Cyclops, I guess, is as they're called. It's a novelty. It's the first encounter there ever was. I'm placing it in D tier. It's not hard. I mean, it was hard on contest. Kind of, but it's not hard outside of it. It's a pretty boring encounter, not high enemy density. You're just looking back and forth between Minotaur spawns and sitting on a plate doing nothing for, 5 minutes. In fact, actually, E tier, because, again, not that interesting. Confluxes. Also kind of boring. In Destiny 1, it was agonizing. In Destiny 1, this encounter went on way too long than it should have. Just a really boring encounter. In Destiny 2, you have the wyverns that at least pose a little bit of a threat. And also the whole challenge of having to wait for the wyverns to sacrifice before killing them was interesting. This encounter is a little bit weird to me because when you run with a full 6-man fire team where everyone's doing something, it's really boring. But the trio for this encounter was really fun, where you have to lock down a side and then you have all those enemies to yourself. Middle was, I'd say, the most fun on trio, because right side, you could just shoot Anarchy or Witherhorde on top of both of the ad doors, and then you'd only have to deal with the chickens and snipers. And left side was even easier, because left side, same thing, Witherhorde or Anarchy on top of one door, and then watch the other door next to Templar. But middle was fun. I'd say Confluxes is D tier. Just kind of a good starter. Oracle, same deal. If you play with a fire team, it's a really boring encounter. If you play duo or trio where you have to handle both the enemies and the oracles, it's fun. Or if you do what I did with my clan, where we just always did 2 people take care of oracles and everyone else is on ad control. So one person takes care of middle and then L1 through 3, and the other person takes care of R1 through 3, and then L3 because you can see it. So, again, D tier, nothing special. In Destiny 1, the Oracle mechanic was also used in missions here and there. So, I don't know, that kind of took away the thrill of it. So, but I do like in Destiny 2, I actually do like in Destiny 2 the whole mechanic that you have to shoot the oracles in the order in which they spawn all the way to the point of where there are 7 oracles on the map. I think the final round in the oracle encounter, if you're doing a 1-5 scenario where you're soloing all the oracles and everyone else is on ad control, that's the one instance where this encounter is actually kind of thrilling. Templar. Boring. Or kind of a meme, so I guess we'll put it above the entrance encounter. This encounter was kind of... Sorry, I was kind of coughing there. This encounter was... I mean, it was okay. It's an age-old encounter ever since Destiny 1. It was a joke in Destiny 1. The main thing you did was you one phased, or technically, did one long damage phase of Templar until he was dead. That became the universal standard, and that carried into Destiny 2. There were so many glitches and ways to make this encounter easier that it was never a challenge. Even on Master, it just became the ultimate spoils farm for a while. So, I don't know. I don't find the encounter particularly intriguing or special. It was just kind of a meme after a while. Gorgon's Maze. It's the same thing in Destiny 2 that it is in Destiny 1. The only difference is that there's a secret chest, like little puzzle in Destiny 2 that you could do. In Destiny 1, pretty much the universal standard was just to use the come at me emote, or whatever it was, to basically glitch through the wall and immediately get to the other section, which was okay. In Destiny 2, you could very easily eager edge over all the Gorgons without spooking them, or you could just have a Omnioculus Hunter take the entire fire team through. So I don't know. It's a novelty sort of trivial section. I will put it in C tier. I enjoy it more than... It's short, very short, but it has some fun parkour and whatnot. I enjoy it more than Oracles and Confluxes. Gatekeepers, B tier. I enjoy it. It's a consistently enjoyable encounter. The trio, I've never done the duo for it, but the trio was very fun to figure out the first time around. And with fire teams, also very fun to figure out, especially on contest mode. The challenge for it was okay, not really my cup of tea personally, but the actual encounter itself, I thought was consistently something that engaged the team, if you did it the right way. If you did the common strategy of pushing the Praetorians off using either tractor cannon or stasis, then yeah, the encounter became a joke and then everyone else was on ad control. But if you did the way it was designed to be done, which is the hot potato mechanic of having 4 relic runners and then 2 plate defenders, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool encounter. In fact, actually, I'm going to put it up in A tier. It's not an S tier encounter, but it is consistently fun if done the right way. Atheon. I mean, it's an okay boss. It's Destiny 1, but now you have to shoot the oracles in the order in which they spawn in, which added a little bit of mechanic of reading the outside. Atheon is sort of a deal of... It depends on who I'm playing it with. If I'm playing it with a fire team that is doing numbers, I consistently enjoy it, where you do 1 through 6. If you're doing the whole left, middle, right, far, close, or front, back, I don't know why, I just enjoy it less. I find numbers to be more interesting. But Atheon, it's B tier. It's nothing special. Would I consistently like to play it week to week? Probably not. But... it had its own enjoyable moments. Okay, now for Crota. We are pretty much going to rank these exclusively off the Destiny 2 version. I played them in Destiny 1. They weren't for me in Destiny 1. I didn't do a ton of raids in Destiny 1 until after Destiny 2 had already come out, and I much prefer the Destiny 2 versions of these raids. The stills... I mean, in Destiny 1, boring. In Destiny 2, I actually really enjoyed it. It's a really cool encounter. It's also a really cool entrance to the mechanics of the raid. And on both contest and master was, I'd say, the absolute make or break for most LFG teams. So I'm gonna put the stills in A. It's an encounter that, even to this day, playing with fire teams, if everyone knows what they're doing, it's satisfying to pull off. If everyone doesn't know what they're doing, it's a hellscape, but it's an encounter that I enjoy running. Cross the bridge. Destiny 1, you would just use Warlock or Titan, and then either Striker skate across the bridge or use self-res to get across. This was kind of I'd say the make or break for solo runs. It was a fun encounter. In Destiny 2, I did like the way they kind of changed things up with how, with the additional mechanic of the chalice being introduced into the raid. But it's not something I would consistently like to run. And quite honestly, I don't know. It wasn't really a for me encounter. Like, it's above Gorgons, but it wasn't for me. Ute. Challenge on this encounter was really interesting. Especially on Master. Master Challenge, it was one of the more, I'd say, interesting encounters for me and my clan to run. It's a fun encounter. I like the fact that in Destiny 2, there's an actual damage phase. Like, an actual health bar, even. In Destiny 1, it's just delete all the enemies, delete the boss. In Destiny 2, there's real mechanics, real damage phase. They really changed up this encounter, transformed it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a fun encounter. Not as, like, Friday night game night or Friday night raid night as Gatekeepers, but better than Stills. The Gauntlet. Wait, what? Oh, that goes before Ute, actually. Oh, well, okay. The Gauntlet. It's not an encounter. Not even remotely. I don't even know why it's in the list. F tier. There's nothing to it. You run through, you grab a chest, you're done. Yay. Crota, Son of Oryx. Crota was in Destiny 1, it was okay. The chalice didn't work even remotely the same way. Wasn't a challenging encounter. On 390, really the only thing that even remotely posed a threat was maybe Crota's Oversoul. And you could use explosive round scout rifles to keep Crota down longer. So that was neat. I don't think that was intended, but it was neat. In Destiny 2, I loved this encounter in contest mode and on master difficulty. It was super challenging. The challenge itself, challenge mode, was super interesting. I love the, us and our swords versus Crota and his sword kind of DPS thing. All around, just a really good encounter. I'd actually say I'd put Crota in S tier. Like, everything about this encounter, I think, was very well done. And high level of replayability. Albeit the loot for the raid wasn't really my personal taste, other than the shotgun. King's Fall. Hall of Souls. Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, this was basically the same thing. There was really no change in mechanics in Destiny 2 for this encounter. So, it's a novelty. It's not really a whole much more to it. It's a novelty. Watching speedruns for this encounter is actually super satisfying, so I will rank it a little bit higher. Like, watching Aegis and, his teams and whatnot play the encounter is super satisfying with the well skates and everything. Other than that, for my personal experience, not really for me. The Crux and Portico. Now, this section I actually enjoy. I enjoy this is probably one of my favorite parkour sections in the game. So I think after what I did with the whole dungeons tier list, I'm going to put this in high C tier. Since C tier is kind of the S tier for, parkour stuff. It was a super fun section. There's nothing really mechanically to it, but I love that it introduced you to the absolute scale, both in Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, The absolute scale of the Dreadnought showed you just how huge this place actually is. Beyond that, you know, it's cool. It's not an encounter, but it's a cool parkour section. I like it, you know. It has one of the most satisfying distance well skate or shatter skates there is. And on Titan, you could either do it normally or just sword fly across with eager edge and line rampants. But I liked it. And it was also the most rage bait section of the raid for new lights and people learning the raid for the first time. So, C tier. Totems in Destiny 1, casual, brain dead, okay. In Destiny 2, casual, a little less brain dead because of the introduction of the kind of the whatever taken buff mechanic that you had to pick up to actually transition the buff between people. On master difficulty was fun, unless the person in middle forgot about the unstoppable ogre and didn't have anything to deal with it, which did happen in LFGs occasionally. But I like Totems. I think Totems is a fun encounter. I like it enough to where if I had to consistently run it week to week, it would be a Friday night, raid night type dungeon. War Priest. I don't really like this guy, to be frank. In Destiny 1 or Destiny 2, his mechanics are okay. His DPS phase is really not that interesting. Master difficulty, the challenge on Master can be an absolute hellscape if no one on your fire team has eager edge, which is a very rare circumstance, but has happened to me. So War Priest, D tier. You know, it's not really that fun. It's not as bad as E tier, but it's not that fun. Golgoroth, S tier. Golgoroth is actually S tier first slot for now. In Destiny 1 was the first true raid encounter I ever really experienced where it felt like a raid. Mind you, I haven't played WoW. I played Final Fantasy VII on the PS3 or PS2, maybe it was PS2, but whatever. I played Final Fantasy VII, and that's my only real exposure to those types of MMORPGs. So I don't have all that experience, but I played Destiny for a while. This felt like a really fun encounter. In Destiny 2, Pantheon, loved this encounter in Pantheon. Really enjoyable, especially during week 4 of Pantheon, the whatever Nezarec Sublime version. So yeah, Golgoroth, really good. Pools, all the mechanics, enemy density, boss DPS, everything about the encounter, really enjoyed. Transept, it's a parkour section. It's a little funny. I guess because it's a little funny, we'll give it some funny points. You know, the whole dick wall, as they call it. It's on the challenge end became a joke because if you had a sword hilt in Destiny 1, you could just sword swipe up the wall and never have to do any of the parkour. And Destiny 2, same deal. If you have a sword hilt or sword with ammo or, you know, strand with grapple grenades, you could eager edge swing once, you know, grapple grenade, eager edge swing again, done. Parkour section over. So, yeah, no. Death Singers, I don't know. I mainly approached this from a casual play, Sherpa and teaching. You know, it was okay. Only real struggle in this encounter is if you decide to kill the first witch in the first DPS phase, you need to be careful with ammo economy on the second witch. So, it's okay. It's not something I'd want to play often, but, you know, it's fine. I'd say it's probably right below this parkour section. Oryx, A tier. Above Atheon, if I can do it. Come on. There we go. Oryx in Destiny 1, awesome. You know, a real raid boss, really cool. Also lore-wise, one of the best guys there is. One of the best villains in the franchise. Destiny 2, really enjoyed the way they changed it up. Enjoyed the DPS. Made it so Touch of Malice was not the meta, even remotely, because of the way they changed Touch of Malice. Really enjoyed this encounter. On Pantheon was also super fun. The week that it came out, it was, I want to say Solar was the surge. So that really worked out for everyone because it meant that everyone could just run Whisper of the Worm for DPS. But yeah, no, I really like Oryx. Oryx is cool. Okay, Wrath of the Machine in Destiny 1. One of my favorite raids, if not actually my favorite raid in Destiny 1. Foundry 13, the entrance to Vosik. Getting introduced to the base mechanics of the raid. If you played this encounter on Hunter, it was really boring. If you played it on Titan with Titan Skate and I forget the name of the exotic, but Twilight Garrison. If you played it with Twilight Garrison, really fun encounter. The trio for this encounter was also, I'd say, kind of a novelty. So, Foundry, D tier. Vosik, it's an okay boss fight. It's cool aesthetic, introduces you to the main mechanic of the raid. Is the boss just a kind of copy-paste of the priest from the Wretched Eye Strike? Yeah. But, you know, everything else about it was pretty okay. And unique fight. So I'd say right above Deathsinger's, C tier. Siege Engine, A tier. I enjoyed this fight every single time I did it. My team really struggled with it on day 1 and week 1. It was a fun, fight to figure out. Good mix of mechanics, enemy density, and everything else. I really enjoyed this fight, to put it simply. It was a fun fight. In fact, we're actually going to put it right above Irute. Server Farm isn't an encounter. Neither... Well, I guess Perfection Complex technically is. That's the first section of Axis. But Server Farm isn't an encounter. It was a cool puzzle for the Outbreak Prime quest. But that's kind of the extent of it. Because of that, again, I'll give it some cool points because of the whole binary code thing you had to do to figure out opening that, module. So... We'll put it up with Vosik, actually. You know, it's similar to Crux and Portico, where it's cool, but I mean, it's definitely not above Deathsingers, though. So we'll put it right there. Perfection Complex, first encounter of Axis, or opening to Axis, introduces you to some of the core mechanics. I really did not like how long the Shank section was. You were just sitting there with your Burning Eye scout rifle plinking away at Shanks for a lot of the encounter. But I enjoyed the overall mechanics of it, so we'll put it B tier. Axis, S tier. Axis is one of my favorite raid bosses of all time. Actually, Axis is above Golgoroth, so Axis is definitely one of my favorite raid bosses of all time. The kind of tech rock punk vibes was really cool for me. I loved it. In some ways kind of reminded me of the tech rot from Warframe. Obviously that came out way afterward, but similar vibes. I just like it. It was very retro. It was very a cool boss. There was I don't know, I'm Gen Z, so for me there was a show based off of Lego sets when I was a kid, Lego Ninjago. And in season 3 or season 4, it was kind of the robot season, which was the last even remotely interesting season of that show. And there was a boss that looked just like Axis in this show. The whole, big robot guy on top of a bunch of, robot spider kind of legs. Axis really reminded me of him in a lot of ways. So when I was playing that. And I love the mechanics. I love the mechanics of this raid. I love the loot. I love the Outbreak Prime quest. All of it kind of culminated with Axis. And one of the best raid boss soundtracks, in my opinion. So Axis, S tier. Underbelly isn't an encounter. Sit in F tier. No. Just no. Castellum, also not really an encounter. I guess a little bit more, so it's kind of like Race's Spire in a way. So Castellum, not really an encounter. Royal Pools is fun. I enjoyed Royal Pools. It was, for the first raid we had in Destiny 2, I enjoyed it. really easy mechanics. There was a kind of semi-DPS with destroying the kind of, whatever, the module, or the little crystals in the center of the arena, whatever they were, going off memory here. But I enjoyed whirlpools. It was a fun encounter. Pleasure Gardens, same deal. Kind of fun, full around encounter. Sneak around the dogs, and it's one of those encounters where, like, on paper, is it really that mechanically interesting? No. But the shenanigans you could get up to with your fire team of, like, don't let the dogs see us sort of deal was fun. I enjoyed it. The Gauntlet. A lot of people in my friend group thought this was the best encounter in Leviathan. If you weren't on the plate or a runner on the inside, which, to be fair, was only like 1 or 2 people that weren't one of those two things. But if you weren't one of those two things, hellishly boring encounter. If you were a runner, probably having a lot of fun. If you're a plate person, it was okay, except for the fact that if you had an auto rifle or SMG, you could just spray up and down on the triangles and it would auto-complete them. So I feel like that kind of took away from... And that became the universal norm. So I feel like that kind of took away from the encounter. C tier. Again, above Gorgon's Maze, but similar deal as Cross the Bridge. Callus. I thought this was a cool fight. Not gonna lie, I mean, I thought DPS was a little boring, but... And the enemy density was pretty low. But when you go inside of, like, Callus's mindscape or whatever it is, and you have the big glowing purple head, and you have to, like, jump over these barriers and, like, hit a core to be able to get access to the next barrier, I thought that was a cool mechanic. Every time I played Callus, it was kind of, similar to these, where it was fun with the fire team. When you're just running with LFG, not really. Okay, Eater of Worlds. I actually did this this raid a fair amount. I did Sherpas this raid. It was what got me into doing Sherpas in Destiny 2, beyond 0 hour. Reactor, boring, terrible. We'll put it above Underbelly, but terrible. Not that fun with LFG, not that fun with friends, kind of tedious, way too long of an encounter, and the fact that we couldn't just skip the encounter altogether by using Heat Rises and World Line 0, I thought was kind of sad, because the encounter was really boring running normally. If you could just skip to the other side with Heat Rises and pull the fire team, that would have been better. Delve Deeper. Kind of a similar deal to Reactor. Cool, you get shot out into the core of the Leviathan, and you get the super cool, getting to see this kind of Vex arena. That's about the extent of it. Oh, and also, if you landed on the right island, you could get the Telesto Catalyst, which was, like, not, it's the Telesto Catalyst who was really using it. So Delve Deeper, no. Argos' Barrier, probably my... I mean, Argos was my favorite encounter, up until the universal strategy in the community became just shooting him in the back. But when you were playing it the normal way, Argos was really fun. Argos' Barrier, it introduces you to the main mechanic of the raid when you are already more than halfway into the raid, which I think is dumb. Like, the fact that we don't get to see the main mechanic of the raid until the technical second encounter was just a strange play. Because, like, that whole, like, jumping on the plates that you have to do in the reactor encounter never came up again after that encounter. Like, this raid was kind of weird. So Argos' Barrier, it's okay. It's C tier. It's not terribly interesting, not high enemy density, introduces the main mechanic, kind of like Gauntlet. Argos, Planetary Core. Kind of a hot take. I enjoyed this encounter more than I enjoyed Callus. I didn't enjoy it more than Atheon, but I enjoyed it more than Callus. It was a casual encounter. Good Friday night raid night. The loot from this raid was absolute garbage, although kind of similar deal, other than the Midnight Coup with Callus. But our raid loot was pretty garbage, but I enjoyed DPS. I enjoyed the satisfying, just big ass raid boss that you could shoot in the face. And I don't know, I liked the whole idea of like getting the different elemental like crystals that you have to use to like deactivate the shield. I thought that was a cool concept. Too bad it was a really short raid. Okay. Oh, this raid. I played this raid once to get the exotic emote. The only raid emote that has ever existed in Destiny 2, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I literally did Spire of Stars to get the emote. I did not pay attention throughout most of this raid, and me and my friends abused every cheese we possibly could, which didn't really help us in the final boss, because there were so many times where you throw the core, you go up the lift, and you throw the core at the ships, and it phases through the ships, and then you have to wipe. And that glitch was so annoying. I can't say anything about this raid, really. I didn't like it at all. So we're just going to do the hot take territory. F tier. F tier. F tier. E tier, because it's... sorry, where are we going with this? Just a sec. No, there you are. Gosh darn it. E tier, because it's a boss. But it had so many glitches that... Actually, no. High F tier. Whole raid. Bad. Did not enjoy. Exotic emote. Actually, yeah. No, I keep going back and forth. But exotic emote, which I have used all throughout my time in Destiny 2, the little couch emote, is the only saving grace of this raid. Okay, on to real raids in Destiny 2. The real stuff, we'll say. Okay, this is Last Wish. Callie. Callie was okay when I first did it. I like the whole going in the pods, going in the little rooms in the middle of the arena. Mechanically, not that interesting. Over time, everyone just did the anarchy cheese to basically one-shot the boss. That literally became the normal when they introduced red borders into this raid, and everyone would just farm Callie to get all their red borders done. So, Callie is, I'd say personally, D tier. I don't really have that much fun running her. The only reason I ran her so much was to get my red borders done. But she's not garbage. Shuro-Chi, kind of similar deal to Callie. A little bit cooler mechanically. I like the whole puzzle on the wall deal. And super satisfying to watch the speedrun for. Like, the speedrun for this encounter is so satisfying to watch. So, I'll rank her high D tier. I wouldn't want to run her often, but, she's okay. Morgith, E tier. I don't like him. I like Valkyr. He's not fun. Not a fun encounter. Really just everything about him I don't like. Riven of 1,000 voice. Wait, why? No. Just a sec. About to say. No. The Vault. Cool first time experience. I don't like rerunning it. It's not a fun encounter to Sherpa, I'll say that. But when I first ran it, it was a cool experience, figuring it out blind with my friends. So we'll put it right here. Kind of like Vosik. Cool first time experience. Not much more beyond that. Not really a replayable thing. Riven, S tier. I'm gonna have to zoom out on this to actually get her up in S tier. Okay, Riven, S tier. Now I understand that for the longest time, a lot of people in LFG just used the cheese, and the cheese made it a cool boss aesthetically and a boring boss mechanically, because it was just go straight to DPS and kill. If you do Riven legit, she is one of the most fun raid bosses in the game. She has the coolest aesthetic, being a literal dragon, an undead taken dragon. Fun boss. Encounter-wise, I enjoy the mechanics, the whole idea of shooting eyes. This boss made me fall in love with Last Wish again when Pantheon was around, because you couldn't do the cheese on Pantheon, at least not successfully. So week 4 of Pantheon, Nezarec Sublime, she was like, I want to say the second to last boss, like right before Nez, or maybe third. But super fun. Really enjoyed her. And yeah, no, she's just solid encounter. Lore reasons. Also, second best You know, we're going to say second best soundtrack to Axis. I prefer the Axis soundtrack over Riven, but really good. Queen's Walk. Okay. Queen's Walk was cool. That's really all I have to say on it. I like the whole mechanic of being teleported inside the heart and having to just survive. The speed run for this was really satisfying to watch. I don't like running this with LFG teams because most LFG teams don't have any clue what the heck they're doing, and having to wipe repeatedly on this encounter because of stupid mistakes is not fun. So, C tier. We'll say high C tier because I enjoy running it. It's not something I would run consistently like something I would in B tier. In fact, actually, just because we're applying that logic, Perfection Complex is going down here because I don't enjoy running it that often. It's just a cool encounter. Hollow Map. So the first encounter in the Scourge of the Past raid. I didn't run this raid terribly often, but I did enjoy running it. I just kind of was late to the party. I ran it once during Forsaken, and then I didn't really run it again until all the raids were farmable in Season of Arrivals. I ran it enough to get Anarchy and the Always On Time Sparrow, and then I stopped running it, which I had really good RNG. I got Always On Time on my 3rd clear, and I got Anarchy, I think, on either my 4th or 5th clear. But yeah, I thought Hollow Map was cool. I thought it was a cool first encounter. I like the idea of having one person read a map and everyone else has to like navigate around, like, you know, kind of directing the team. So I found it fun. In fact, it's an encounter that if it existed nowadays, I would probably rerun it. We'll actually we'll put it right there. A Blade's Glory. I enjoyed this. You know, I thought it was cool. You know, I liked running it each time. I liked the idea of, like, again, this was before Prophecy, so this was the first real SRL mimicking, you know, encounter that we had, where you have to go fast on your Sparrow. There is very little room for mistakes, and actually like the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, there were buttons. You could take alternate routes to hit buttons that would slow the servitor down. And you could even close a door on it. So, and also this is the encounter where we got Always On Time, the first Sparrow in the history of Destiny 2, where people would grind a raid for a Sparrow. Now, to be fair, that was because the Sparrow was glitched and was a little bit faster than every other Sparrow in the game for a while, but still, cool concept. And we're going to zoom out again so I can see more of these. Vault Access. It's okay. Vault Access, if you were the person running into the middle area, like the underground tunnels to read and hit buttons, it was okay. If you were on the outside of the arena, just finding the captain, killing him, and getting the reading and whatnot, I don't know. It wasn't terribly interesting. And, you know, whatever, shooting the tank in middle for DPS I thought was kind of a lazy way of doing DPS. So, Vault Access, I'd say C tier. Like low C tier. Not an encounter I would really enjoy rerunning. In fact, actually, no, D tier. Insurrection Prime. Cool boss concept. One of, kind of like Rainique's from Vesper's Host. One of the most unique servitor bosses that we had. Now, to be fair, did they take Insurrection Prime and just make an enemy type out of it in Beyond Light? Yeah. That was a little sad. But they also removed Insurrection Prime from the game, so new players didn't realize the difference. I like the whole, like, CAP or PCA or whatever it was, the whole damage rotation in there. That was kind of a fun concept. I will say this raid, when I ran it, was largely trivialized by everyone just running Whisper of the Worm and having infinite ammo that they could pull out of thin air as long as they hit the boss's very obvious crit. So that was a little weird. But I enjoyed this boss. I'd say A tier, like low A tier. Hive Ritual. Hive Ritual is a bit of a weird deal. So we're gonna zoom out even further. My gosh, can barely read these now. Okay. Is there any way to like make this? No, there isn't. Okay. Why? No, that changed the colors on it. Just a second. Boop. Gosh darn it. Technical stuff. SA. What the frick? Oh, that's why. We're being dumb. Okay. We'll edit that portion out, but I don't know. I think the Hive Ritual encounter was okay. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was awful. It was terrible. It was, I think, one of my least favorite raid encounters in the entire game. And it was a copy-paste of that same encounter from the Season of Opulence seasonal activity. It was a horrible encounter. I mean, the seasonal activity version was at least kind of fun. The raid version was not fun at all. So Hive Ritual, bad. Kingdom of Sorrow, it's a parkour section. There's really not much to it. It's not even a unique parkour section. Like, I wouldn't put it, like, I put it with a reactor, actually. It's like, why does it exist sort of deal. So, yeah, no. Galron's Deception, first encounter Galron. It was okay, it introduced the core mechanic. Galron is one of my favorite raid encounters in the game. But Galron's Deception, yeah, it was fine. It was C tier. Galron, S tier. Let's just get you up into S tier. But you're right above Crota. Galron as an encounter was really fun to play with a team. I wasn't into doing laymans during Shadowkeep, so I had no knowledge of that. But when you ran this encounter with just your standard LFG, where you're not like optimizing DPS, where everyone just used Outbreak Perfected or whatnot, or Mountaintop, like everyone was just using Mountaintop, like I really enjoyed this encounter. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the idea of everyone in the team having some role to play, like there wasn't really ad control much. I mean, there were ads to kill, but like everyone had to like shift rotation, stuff like that. I enjoyed that. I thought it was a really cool encounter. Rarely do we get to see an encounter where everyone has a role, and Galron very much represented that for me. Now, did it come with one of the worst raid exotics there was? Yeah, but, you know, you win some, you'll lose some on the exotics end. Okay, Consecrated Mind. I don't like Garden of Salvation. I don't find Garden of Salvation fun, evading Consecrated Mind. The challenge on this actually made it worse. Now, I like it more than Spire of Stars. That's about the extent of it, though. The Undergrowth was a kind of cool parkour section. You know, on the parkour end, I mean, it introduced scale. I'll put it right down there. The fact that I enjoyed the parkour more than I enjoyed the boss really says something. Consecrated Mind itself. Summon. Kill ads. Run in circles. And kill ads. And I guess link up. E tier. Consecrated Mind. E tier. DPS. Deposit some motes. I just didn't find it super magical. I mean, this entire raid was Gambit, the raid. And I wasn't really a big fan of Gambit. So it wasn't really for me. It wasn't my cup of tea. Parkour section. Kind of similar deal up tier. I actually kind of enjoyed this parkour section. And also the end of the Divinity quest here was kind of fun. Sanctified Mind. I mean, higher than these. Sanctified was a pretty cool encounter. I, again, didn't really like the moat mechanic or the fact that there was basically nowhere safe to sit during DPS. I mean, other than the Well of Radiance that whoever threw down. I also didn't like the fact that the moats just fall through the floor if you get unlucky in a teleport. And that really tainted my... Like, the amount of times I had a team go in and we had to do an additional teleport because moats fell through the floor was insane. So, not for me. Okay, now we're getting into the Beyond Light era. Where all of these, well, except for Last Wish and Garden, the rest of these did not exist. We're all gone, removed. Okay, yeah, no, Survive the Blizzard. It's an encounter. It's a Sparrow section. Yay, we don't get Sparrow sections very often. Because of that, I feel emotionally obligated to put it up here. Like, it's not a cool Sparrow section like a Blaze Glory is. It was okay. Kind of funny during the first couple of weeks. Crypt Security, it was cool. I like the whole dynamic of going back and forth, having to read 1 through 5 on the scanner and then having the operator go downstairs. Day 1 experience was a little rough, but, I enjoyed this encounter. We'll put it B tier. I pretty consistently would enjoy running this encounter. Atrax 1. Day 1 was hell because he would regain health randomly. Like, if you dealt too much damage in a chunk at one time, then a chunk of his health would come back. And I did not like that. My team spent somewhere in the realm of 8 to 10 hours on this encounter because of that. Because we wouldn't do enough damage in the final stand, or he would regain health in the final stand. So, yeah, but outside of that, like, just running regularly, it's okay. Pantheon version was fun enough. I'd say it's an encounter that, like, most of everyone else is just on ad control, but, it's an okay encounter. Spacewalk, Deepstone Lullaby. That's really all I can say here. Deepstone Lullaby was the saving grace of this entire section. Because of that, we'll put it above Gorgon's Maze. Descent. Oh, Chaos Encounter. Okay. Chaos Encounter, I thought was fun. I actually enjoyed this. I enjoyed this of the hot potatoing around the different roles and nukes, and my friends and I would actually, like, steal nukes from one another so we could deposit it instead. So that's kind of, that's a fun encounter. Tanix, aka Tanix V4. Or the strike, the reprise strike, and then he came back in Shadowkeep, and then now. So, Tanix number 4. I don't know. The fact that the nukes became just the universal way for everyone to run it was a little weird. DPS here was kind of cool. Like the whole debris spinning around. And it was an interesting boss aesthetic. But I just didn't really feel it with this encounter. Tanix was just kind of a one and done. You play it one time, you find it cool, and then you never play it again. Especially considering Eyes of Tomorrow was the most garbage raid exotic we've basically ever had, so there was really no reason to run Tanix unless you were just finishing up the Descendant title. Disciple's Bog in Vow the Disciple. Good entrance encounter. I enjoyed this, Is it something I'd run often because of how time-gated it is? Not really, but I enjoy it. High C tier. Acquisition. Fun. I consistently have had fun with this encounter. Now, I have always been on mechanics. I have never been on ad control in this encounter. I have always been one of the runners. So that slightly... there is a slight bias I have because of that. But in my experience of running this encounter, I've always had a fun time running it. In fact, because of that, I'm actually going to put it up there. Caretaker. Caretaker... On Pantheon, it was really fun. Outside of Pantheon, I mean, it's really satisfying watching the solo or even the duo of this encounter, but playing it, it's okay. It's something I can run consistently, but it's not necessarily like a favorite of mine by any means. Directionless is my favorite parkour section in the game, by far. Like this takes the cake for best parkour section in the game. And actually, yeah, we didn't have anything that was above that, right? No. Yeah, directionless is really cool. Definitely the S tier. Actually, because of that, we're gonna put it in B tier. Definitely the S tier of parkour. I love the scale with which we're introduced inside of the pyramid ship, Rolk's pyramid ship. The parkour itself was fun to figure out, especially on Titan. This is, you know, before we had Strand in the game. But even after Strand was introduced, I enjoyed this. All around, just kind of a fun kind of jungle gym. And in modern day, the fact that you can just go straight to exhibition, you don't even have to wait for your fire team because you can just mountaintop over the door, I find kind of hilarious. So because of that, we're actually going to put it above Caretaker. I actually enjoy... No. Right below Caretaker. Exhibition. I don't enjoy this encounter. I think it's a really cool encounter. I think it is, by all accounts, automatically going in A, because I don't enjoy the encounter by itself, but I do enjoy the fact that everyone has a role in the encounter. Everyone is doing something, and we don't get to see that terribly, terribly often in Destiny. And this encounter is just, it's chaos, the encounter. You know, if you think Descent is chaos, no, Exhibition is chaos. So, yeah. Rulk, Rulk mechanically wasn't for me. And we keep having to zoom out because of how large this tier list is getting. Rulk mechanically wasn't for me. I don't know why. Rulk just, you know, it wasn't my cup of tea. Cool mechanically, really cool lore-wise. Like the lore of Lubre's Ruin, the whole lore of that, I love. And also, he did become a meme in my friend group as Rulk, Kicker of Guardians. But, you know, I don't know. I wasn't really feeling it with that encounter. So we'll say B tier. I enjoy the parkour section, actually, ironically, more than I enjoy Rulk. So, yeah. Root of Nightmares. This is going to be weird territory for me, because contrary to... or I guess in contrast to much of the community, I really enjoyed this raid. I was not there for day one. I was not even there for week one, month one, whatnot. I didn't play the raid until Season of the Witch, but I really enjoyed it. It was an easy raid. It was kind of comparable to Eater of Worlds. It was harder than Eater of Worlds, but, you know, comparable difficulty in terms of, like, if we're scaling it. But I was always on mechanics. Every time I ran this raid, I've only ever been on ad control once, and that was inside of Master when we were doing the Master challenges. Other than that, I have always been on mechanics because in my friend group of, you know, Xbox friends, none of us are particularly speedrunners, or many of us aren't speedrunners. I was the fastest in the friend group when it came to, like, my Eager Edge Strand Mountaintop build, so I was consistently put on nodes because of that fact. So I got just kind of lucky. Because of that, first encounter, boring. You know, kind of in this section, just boring. Excision, my favorite encounter in the raid. I love Excision. It's so fun doing this encounter right. In fact, we're putting it right above Atheon. I really like Excision. Cross the Chasm. It's a parkour section, so it's never going to go anything above B tier. Really cool scale of the raid. I'm gonna put it right up with directionless. I like the I like the idea of like just node to node showing you the true scale of the raid. Really allows you to practice your eager edge and mountaintop. It's a good sandbox for movement, I would say. So up there with directionless. Although, you know, below Rulk. I'm not gonna put it above Rulk because that would piss off way too many of my friends. Okay. Macrocosm. I really didn't enjoy this the first time I played it. My opinion on it completely changed in Pantheon. If we're just talking over the course of Destiny 2, this raid, if I can scroll up to it, or this encounter, S tier. Specifically the Pantheon version. Outside of Pantheon, really not that interesting. Because it's just 4 people on mechanics, 2 people on hard control, ad control. But on Pantheon, you had a Tormentor that spawned in the middle of the arena that you had to delete. You really could not mess up on planets. Like, it had to be perfection. And on top of that, you had fire tornadoes that would randomly spawn on one of the areas in the arena that on week 4 basically one-shot you. Like, if you put on triple solar damage resistance, then it was a little better. But, like, this encounter was really fun during week 4 of Pantheon. And also, I think, the make or break for most fire teams on week 4 Pantheon. Okay, Nezarec. I didn't enjoy Nezarec. You know, he was a joke of a final boss. I don't know, like, I think I enjoyed Vosik more than I enjoyed Nez. Was I always on mechanics on Nez, which made it a little bit better? Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna put Nezarec in high C tier. It wasn't for me personally. Especially week 4 Pantheon, it was even worse. Week 4 Pantheon, it was pretty much the same fight he normally is. With the only real difference is where we did DPS, because we did DPS on the far outside flower on the left-hand side. So, no, not really for me. Jupa. Okay. I've only played this raid twice. I attempted it on contest mode. Contest mode. It was the worst contest mode experience I've ever had. Not necessarily because of the raid itself, but just because of how much damage the Strand and Stasis Scion enemies did. Those were the worst enemy in the raid. My team got to Herald of Finality before we gave up. I watched up through Verity before I stopped watching because everyone was, whatever. The day 1 experience was really boring to watch because everyone was blacking out their screens and muting their audio. And after playing it, after like day 1, which I didn't play it again until months after, it was okay. It was a cool raid. I think it had the coolest mechanics and setting out of any raid. I'd say it's slightly above Rulk's Pyramid in terms of like my first time experience. I enjoyed it more than Rulk's Pyramid, but it was kind of similar vibes. So, first encounter. After day 1, I enjoyed this encounter. This is an encounter I would replay. I would replay this encounter. So, Herald of Finality. C tier. Not really for me. Taken Captain design. Woohoo. Haven't seen that before. Mechanics were interesting enough, but really not my cup of tea. The Monolith. Repository. Okay, so yeah. Monolith. Parkour section. I thought it was okay for parkour sections. It didn't have the same kind of scale, actually, that some others had. Like, I'd put it below directionless. But above Across the Chasm. So, but Monolith was okay. Repository, yeah. It's not really one I enjoy replaying. I'd say high C tier. Verity, one of the most mechanically complex encounters in the game, or at least mechanically confusing. I think my experience of this encounter for day one was tainted just because I couldn't really watch it because everyone was muting and blacking out their screens. After learning it with my clan months later, I was just confused the entire time I ran this encounter. I never really actually figured this encounter out in my head. To be fair, I only played the raid twice, so I never really got the opportunity. But I will say, everyone in the team had to do something, and that automatically makes it a B tier encounter. And actually, that automatically makes it a tier encounter for me. So I'm gonna put it above Exhibition, or actually above Insurrection. It's not really what I would call a Friday night raid night encounter. But it's cool. I really like the ghost mechanic. That was a cool mechanic. And confusing as hell, but, you know, it engages the entire team. Okay, Zenith Ascent, the best parkour section, I think, ever. By a landslide. Like, I love this actually, this parkour section trumps a lot of things. Because, I don't know, I mean this jokingly, but I am like a mountaintop addict, or a Alethanum addict. And this encounter really just was all the dopamine hits when it came to Eager Edge and Alethanum. So, Zenith Ascent is up there. The Witness. Cool raid boss. You know, aesthetically, lore-wise, awesome. Execution-wise, okay. I mean, you know, I enjoyed the encounter. It was cool. I like the DPS phase. That was my probably favorite. Mechanically, the rolls within the encounter are fun. I did find it a little weird that it kind of flipped some mechanics on the head. Like it was you had the plate mechanic present throughout the raid up until that point, and then they got rid of the plate mechanic in this encounter, which just seemed a little strange. Now, to be fair, that is similar to how things worked in VOW, but at least in VOW they had they kept the symbols the entire way through. So, Witness, if we're ranking it including lore, it's S tier. Let me just get up there. If we're including it ranking lore, it's S tier, but I'm putting it on the low S tier. Like, I'd say I enjoyed it. It's about right there. I enjoyed Gulron more than I enjoyed Witness. Lore-wise, Witness is an insane boss. I love the darkness build-up. What they did with the Excision mission, or whatever it's called, that final mission, you know, really also was a lot of fun. But in the raid, I don't know. It was kind of this deal of, like, to put it in simple words, it wasn't my cup of tea. Would I do it for a Friday night raid night with a friend group? Definitely. Would I do it often on my own outside of Friday night raid night? Like, would I do it with an LFG team? Hell no. Definitely not. But yeah, so, I mean, it's going down. You know, we got, you know, S tier is pretty solid. Axis, forever my final, you know, favorite final raid boss. Love Golgoroth, love Riven. Gulron, even though he hasn't been in the game for years, have really fond memories of that encounter. Witness is okay. Crota, fun encounter. Macrocosm, again, only fun inside of Pantheon. Did not enjoy it outside of Pantheon. A tier, I'd say the highlights here would be Oryx, Siege Engine, and Oryx, Siege Engine, and Acquisition would be my top three in A tier. I know I didn't actually put them in the top three, but that's because I'm ranking other things. B tier, I really love the parkour section for Zenith. Hollow Map was a really unique encounter. I enjoyed Directionless as a parkour encounter as well. Relic was okay, just not my cup of tea. Same with Callus. And, you know, there were some parkour sections in here, like, you know, Monolith and Cross the Chasm, I think were fun. Monolith, though, the parkour section in the beginning of the raid was actually more fun than Monolith. So I don't really know how to feel about this, really. So I guess I'm actually going to put this in high C tier, because I enjoyed the parkour section in the beginning of the raid more than I enjoyed Monolith. Okay. For C tier, yeah, Disciples Bog was fun. Perfection Complex was interesting. The Crux and Portico was a really fun first time parkour section. Nezerac was boring as hell. Not for me. Vault, good first time, but not really much beyond that. Other than that, I mean, the rest of these are just kind of like, they're novelties, I guess, as Datto would put it in his video. They're novelties. I know that word was thrown around a lot. You know, these were just kind of not for me, personally. And then, of course, Garden of Salvation was the only good part of Garden was the parkour section. Just as a casual player. D tier, I'd say the only thing in D tier I actually enjoyed was probably Foundry, probably first encounter in Wrath of the Machine, and Oracles, but only if done 1-5 or in Trio. Trio Oracles was fun, normal Oracles is boring. E tier, all of these are boring, in my opinion. They're either not encounters or they're just boring. Templar is a meme. In fact, Templar is going to go top of E tier simply for the fact that it was a meme. And F tier, yeah, these just aren't encounters. They aren't even dungeon encounters. Like, I would say some of these parkour sections, I had more fun in dungeons than I did in Reactor or Delve Deeper or stuff like that. Like, Reactor could have been the entrance to a dungeon instead of a raid. But it wasn't. And Underbelly, you don't even really experience. Like, you only experience it when you're traveling from encounter to encounter in Leviathan. And I mean, I suppose if you go into Prestige Leviathan, there are secret chests, you know, keys to locations that you could find, that you could use to unlock other sections of the Underbelly. But that's about the extent of it. I think the only memory I actually have of Underbelly is there was one section where you had to, like, jump in front of fans so that you weren't flung to the other end. And that was really my only solid memory of that. So, yeah, you know, this is all. And of course, Hive Ritual will remain, in my opinion, the worst raid encounter in the game. Again, the Season of Opulence, seasonal activity version, or the menagerie, that is, was more fun. So yeah, that is my, I'm just going to zoom out. You know, it's kind of hard to see, but that's my raid tier list. You know, there you go. It's my opinion on it. And yeah, thanks for watching.